Look at the wall nearest to you. Really look at it. It appears solid. It appears absolute. If you were to run at it with everything you have, classical physics dictates a single, painful outcome. You collide. You stop. You break. In the world we think we live in, energy must always be greater than the barrier to overcome it. If you don't have the energy to climb over it or break through it, you are trapped. End of story. But that is a lie. Or at least, it is a simplified version of reality that hides a much stranger truth. According to the fundamental laws of our universe, specifically the laws of quantum mechanics, there is a non-zero probability that you could walk straight through that wall right now. It's not magic. It's not science fiction. It is a phenomenon called quantum tunneling. It is the reason the sun shines. It is the reason your computer works. And if you understand the mathematics behind it, it might just be the blueprint for overcoming the impossible barriers in your own life. Because in the quantum realm, impossible is just a probability waiting to happen. Chapter 1: The Illusion of Solidity. To understand how to cheat the laws of barriers, we first have to understand why barriers exist at all. When you touch a table or a wall or a person, you feel resistance. You feel solidness. But what are you actually feeling? You've heard this before, but really think about the scale. An atom is 99.999999% empty space. If the nucleus of an atom were the size of a marble sitting on the 50-yard line of a football stadium, the electrons would be tiny specks of dust in the furthest nosebleed seats. Everything in between. Nothing. Empty void. So when you touch a wall, you aren't touching stuff. You are experiencing the electromagnetic repulsion between the electrons in your hand and the electrons in the wall. It's a force field pushing against a force field. Sir Isaac Newton and the classical physicists viewed the world like a game of billiards. Objects are distinct. They have definite positions. They have definite energy. In this classical view, if a ball rolls up a hill but it doesn't have enough speed, enough kinetic energy to reach the top, gravity wins. It stops and it rolls back down. Every single time. Mathematically, we say that energy E is less than the potential barrier V. Access denied. This is how most of us view our lives. We see a barrier: financial, emotional, physical. We calculate our energy. We realize we don't have enough. So we turn back. We accept the classical limit. But the universe doesn't actually work like a game of billiards. Around the 1920s, physics had a nervous breakdown. Because we discovered that matter isn't just matter. Chapter 2: The Wave Function. You are not a point. Enter Louis de Broglie. In 1924, he proposed something radical. He suggested that particles, like electrons, could behave like waves. And he was right. But it gets weirder. It's not just that particles move in waves. It's that they are waves of probability. This brings us to the Schrödinger equation, which describes the state of a quantum system. The most important symbol here is psi, the wave function. In classical physics, you exist here. At coordinate x, y, z, exactly here. But in quantum physics, described by the wave function, a particle doesn't have a single location. It has a probability distribution. Think of it like a crime scene map showing where a suspect might be hiding. There is a 90% chance the electron is in the living room. A 9% chance it's in the kitchen. But there is a 0.0000001% chance it is on the moon. And this is key until you measure it. It is effectively in all those places at once. It is a cloud of possibility. Now let's take this probability cloud and throw it at a wall. Classically, the ball hits the wall and bounces back. But a wave, Waves behave differently. Think of a sound wave hitting a heavy door. Most of the sound reflects back, but some of it is muffled and passes through to the other side. Or think of light hitting a piece of glass. Some reflects, some transmits. When an electron's wave function hits a barrier that it shouldn't be able to cross, because it doesn't have enough energy, the math does something extraordinary. The wave doesn't stop abruptly at zero. Inside the barrier, the wave function undergoes what we call exponential decay. It drops off rapidly. It gets weaker and weaker the thicker the wall is. But, and this is the biggest but in the history of science, if the wall is thin enough or the wave is persistent enough, the probability line does not hit zero before it reaches the other side. It emerges. The electron didn't climb over the wall. It didn't break the wall. It didn't find a hole in the wall. It simply existed on one side, and then, based on the probability math, it simply was on the other side. It tunneled. It borrowed energy from the universe, violated the classical laws of motion, and appeared where it had no business being. You might be thinking, okay, that's cool for an electron, but I'm a human, I'm big. Why can't I walk through walls? The answer lies in a number called Planck's constant, and the limitation of your own mind. We'll get to the mind part later. First, let's look at the energy loan you need to take out to make this happen. Chapter 3, the cosmic credit card, Heisenberg's uncertainty. So, how does a particle borrow energy to cross a barrier that requires more energy than it possesses? To understand this, we have to look at the rulebook of the universe. And the rulebook says, you can't know everything. This is the Heisenberg Uncertainty Principle. Werner Heisenberg discovered a fundamental limit to precision. He stated that you cannot simultaneously know a particle's position and its momentum with perfect accuracy. The more precisely you know where a particle is, the less you know about where it is going or how fast. But there is another version of this equation that is even more profound for our story. It relates energy and time. Mathematically, it implies a trade-off. If you constrain a particle to a fleeting moment of time, its energy becomes uncertain. Uncertain doesn't just mean we don't know, it means the energy can fluctuate wildly. It can spike high enough to overcome a barrier that should be impossible to cross, simply because the universe hasn't had enough time to catch the particle breaking the rules. Think of it like a cosmic credit card. In the classical world, you cannot spend money you don't have. If a car costs $50,000 and you have $10,000, you don't get the car. But in the quantum world, the universe allows you to open a line of credit. You can borrow a massive amount of energy enough to jump over a seemingly impossible wall, as long as you pay it back quickly enough that the universe doesn't notice. The higher the barrier, the more energy you need to borrow. The more energy you borrow, the faster you have to pay it back. This is why quantum tunneling usually only happens over very short distances, nanometers. The particle borrows the energy, surges across the forbidden zone, and returns the energy on the other side, returning to its normal state. It's a heist, a microscopic bank robbery that happens billions of times a second. And without this theft, the universe would be dark, cold, and dead. Chapter 4, the sun, the DNA, and the machine. You might be thinking this is all just theoretical math on a chalkboard. But let me prove to you that this is the only reason you are alive right now. Let's look at the sun. For a star to shine, it needs to fuse hydrogen atoms into helium. This releases the massive energy that warms our planet. But there is a problem. Hydrogen nuclei are protons. They are positively charged. And like two north poles of a magnet, positive charges repel each other intensely. This is called the Coulomb barrier. To force two protons together against this repulsion, you need heat. Incredible heat. Physicists have calculated that to overcome the Coulomb barrier classically, the center of the sun would need to be about billion degrees Kelvin. But when we measure the sun, its core is only about 15 million degrees. It is way, way too cold. By all accounts of classical physics, the sun should not ignite. It shouldn't be a star, it should be a dead ball of gas. The protons simply do not have the energy to touch each other. So why is the sun shining? Because of quantum tunneling. In the chaotic plasma of the sun's core, protons are constantly smashing towards each other. 99.99% of them get repelled. They hit the wall and bounce back. But every once in a while, about 1 in every 10 to the 28th collisions, a proton utilizes the Heisenberg Uncertainty Principle. It borrows energy, tunnels through the Coulomb barrier, and fuses with another proton. It happens rarely for each individual atom, but because the sun has so many atoms, it happens enough to light up the solar system. The sunlight hitting your face right now is actually tunneling radiation. You are being warmed by a quantum impossibility. But it gets closer to home. Look at your hand. Look at your own biology. Your DNA is a code. A double helix held together by hydrogen bonds, basically protons connecting base pairs, A with T, G with C. Usually, these protons sit comfortably in their designated spots. But DNA is a quantum object. There is a probability, a wave function, that a proton in your DNA will tunnel across the hydrogen bond to the wrong side of the helix. This is called a tautomeric shift. If the DNA tries to replicate while the proton is in this tunneled position, it pairs with the wrong base. A G might pair with a T instead of a C. This is a mutation. Most mutations are bad. They cause cancer or cell death. But some are the engine of evolution itself. It is entirely possible that the random genetic mutations that led to the evolution of the human brain, or the opposable thumb, were caused by a single proton tunneling through a barrier millions of years ago. You are not just observing quantum mechanics. You are a product of it. Finally, look at the device you are using to watch this video. If you use a flash drive, an SSD, or a smartphone, you are using tunneling. Flash memory works by trapping electrons inside a floating gate. To erase the data, we force the electrons to tunnel out through an insulating layer that they shouldn't be able to cross. We have mastered this ghost ability. We use it to store our memes, our photos, and our history. So the physical reality is clear. Solidity is an illusion. Barriers are permeable. If you have the right frequency, and if you are willing to borrow the energy, you can pass through walls. But here is the final and perhaps most difficult question. Does this apply to the macroscopic world? Does this apply to your career, your relationships, and your mindset? Can you tunnel? The answer is yes. But the variables are different. In the final chapter, we will leave the realm of atoms and enter the realm of human potential. Chapter 5, The Macro Barrier, the Physics of Human Potential. Part 5.1, The Prison of Decoherence. We now arrive at the most difficult part of our journey. We have seen how electrons walk through walls. We have seen how the sun burns by cheating the rules. But you look in the mirror and you see flesh and bone. You look at your bank account, and the zero is a solid, unmoving number. You look at your career, and the rejection letters feel as hard as concrete. Why? If the universe is built on probability and magic, why does your life feel so stuck? The answer lies in a brutal phenomenon known as quantum decoherence. In the quantum world, a particle can do miracles. It can be in two places at once. It can tunnel. It can be a ghost, but only as long as it is isolated. as long as no one is watching, as long as it doesn't interact with the environment. But the moment a particle interacts with the outside world, a photon of light, an air molecule, or an observer, its wave function collapses. It stops being a cloud of infinite possibility and snaps into a single, boring, definite reality. This is the tragedy of the human condition. You are a biological quantum machine, but you are constantly being measured. Society measures you. Your parents' expectations measure you. Your boss, your debts, your own self-doubt, they are all constantly observing you. They are forcing your wave function to collapse into a single state. The person who isn't good enough, the person who is broke, the person who failed. You feel solid because you are trapped in a web of constant observation. You have decode from your potential. But here is the secret that successful people know, consciously or unconsciously. They learn how to create a shield against decoherence. They learn to ignore the measurements of the world. They learn to treat the solid walls of reality not as facts, but as suggestions. Let me tell you a story about a wall that stood for thousands of years, until one man decided to tunnel through it. Part 5.2, the 4-minute wall. For centuries, the world believed in a physiological limit. A solid wall. It was the 4-minute mile. Doctors said it was impossible. Biologists said the human heart would explode. The wind resistance was too high. The bone structure was too weak. This wasn't just a difficult task. It was accepted as a law of nature. It was a collective reality. A universal wave function collapsed that said, humans cannot run this fast. Until May 6, 1954. Roger Bannister. Bannister didn't just train his legs, he trained his probability distribution. He refused to accept the solidness of the barrier. He visualized the results so intensely that he existed on the other side of the finish line before the gun even fired. He borrowed the energy. He tunneled. But here is the part that proves this is quantum physics, not just sports. For thousands of years, no one could do it. But within 46 days of Bannister breaking the record, another runner, John Landy, broke it again. Within a year, 3 more runners did it. Today, high school students do it. Did human evolution change in 46 days? Did our lungs suddenly get bigger? No. The barrier changed. Bannister proved that the wall wasn't made of concrete. It was made of information. It was a probability field. Once he tunneled through, he changed the wave function for the entire human race. He showed that the probability on the other side was non-zero. So look at the impossible barrier in your life right now. Is it a law of physics? Or is it just a collective hallucination that no one has tunneled through yet? To pass through it, you need to apply the 3 mechanics of quantum strategy. Part 5.3, Mechanism 1, surface area, stop being a point. The first mistake you make is defining yourself as a particle. A particle is a point. It has one location. It tries one thing at a time. You apply for that one job. You wait. You get rejected. You crash. You stop. You ask that one person on a date. They say no. You feel crushed. This is classical failure. You are putting all your mass into a single coordinate. If the hole in the wall isn't exactly at that coordinate, you hit the concrete. To tunnel, you must become a wave. In quantum mechanics, the wave function spreads out over space. It explores all possible paths simultaneously. This is what we call luck. People think luck is random. Physicists know luck is just surface area. If you want to start a business, don't launch one product. Launch 10 prototypes. Test them all. If you want to be a writer, Don't write one novel and spend 5 years polishing it. Write 50 short stories. Publish them all. You are increasing the surface area of your probability wave. The math of tunneling dictates that the probability of passing through a barrier is small for any single attempt. But if you are a wave, you are making infinite attempts at every moment. By becoming a wave, you stop fearing rejection. Because a wave cannot be rejected. If one part of the wave hits a rock, the rest of the water simply flows around it. You become fluid. You become inevitable. Ask yourself, are you a rock crashing against the wall? Or are you water looking for the crack? Part 5.4, Mechanism 2, the Heisenberg hustle, the cosmic loophole. Now we return to the engine of tunneling, the secret weapon. In the textbooks, there is a famous principle by Werner Heisenberg involving energy and time. But let's look at it as a story about a cosmic loophole. Imagine the universe is a strict bank manager. It keeps a perfect ledger. Energy in must equal energy out. You cannot spend what you don't have. If you don't have the energy to climb the wall, the manager says access denied. But Heisenberg discovered that the bank manager blinks. There is a tiny, microscopic window of time where the universe isn't looking. The principle basically says, the shorter the time, the more rules you can break. If you act fast enough in a burst of pure, unadulterated intensity, you can borrow a massive amount of energy that you don't technically have. You can summon a surge of power out of nowhere to punch through a barrier, as long as you do it quickly. This is the scientific validation of the sprint. Society teaches us the opposite. It teaches us slow and steady wins the race. It teaches us to save energy, to be balanced, to be consistent. And yes, consistency is good for maintenance. But consistency does not break barriers. Consistency keeps you walking along the wall. Intensity punches through it. Sometimes you are stuck because you are too balanced. You don't have enough peak energy to cross the threshold. So borrow it. This is the obsession phase. This is the startup founder sleeping on the factory floor to hit a deadline. This is the artist locking themselves in a cabin for a month. This is you committing to a 30-day challenge that scares you. You are condensing a year's worth of effort into a month. You are creating a spike in energy so high that it violates your normal limits. Is it sustainable forever? No. The universe eventually opens its eyes, and you have to pay the energy back. We call that rest or recovery. But the goal isn't to sustain it forever. The goal is to tunnel. Once you are on the other side of the wall, the physics changes. On the other side, the resistance drops. On the other side, you have the momentum. Do not be afraid of periods of extreme imbalance. That is simply you utilizing the Heisenberg loophole. You are gathering enough voltage to convince the universe to let you slip through the door while it's blinking. Part 5.5, Mechanism 3, Resonance, the ghost on the other side. Finally, the most mystical yet mathematical part of the equation. In the Schrödinger equation, for a particle to tunnel through a barrier, the wave function cannot reach zero inside the wall. There must be a tail, a small, faint probability that already exists on the other side. If your wave function on the other side is exactly zero, the probability of getting there is zero. You bounce back. Always. This is where mindset becomes physics. Most people approach a barrier with fear. They look at the wall and think, I don't belong on the other side, I am not rich enough, I am not smart enough. Mathematically, they are setting their probability on the destination to zero. And because it is zero, the universe obeys. The door stays shut. To tunnel, you must create a resonance. You must vibrate at the frequency of the reality you want. You must cultivate such a strong belief, such a vivid visualization of the outcome, that a part of your wave function is already there. This isn't just fake it till you make it. This is transmission matching. The universe needs a coordinate to send you to. If you haven't built that coordinate in your mind, there is nowhere for the particle to land. You need to be so familiar with your success, so comfortable with the idea of being on the other side, that your arrival feels inevitable, not impossible. When you combine these three things: 1, the wave, trying many paths, not just one. 2, the hustle, using bursts of impossible intensity. 3, the resonance, knowing you belong on the other side. The wall loses its solidity. The concrete becomes a cloud. The impossible becomes merely unlikely. And unlikely is something we can work with. You are not a solid object. Stop acting like one. You are a probability. And probability can go anywhere. Chapter 6, the quantum invitation. Conclusion: the wall is just information. The sun shines because protons refuse to accept the barrier. Your DNA evolves because atoms refuse to stay in their lanes. And you are here to do the same. The obstacles in your life are not stop signs. They are energy tests. They are asking you a simple question. Are you bold enough to borrow the energy? Are you fluid enough to be the wave? When you stop looking at your problems as solid objects and start seeing them as mathematical probabilities, you realize that you have more control than you ever imagined. You are not a victim of reality. You are an observer capable of collapsing the wave function into a new shape. If this video shifted your frequency, even by a little bit, then we have succeeded. But understanding the theory is just the first step. Applying it is where the real experiment begins. Here at Quantum Files Official, we don't just study the universe, we decode it to hack reality. We are building a community of quantum strategists, people who refuse to accept the classical limits of life. If you want to continue this journey and uncover the hidden codes behind the matrix, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. In our upcoming episodes, we are going to venture further into the unknown. We will continue to uncover fresh, groundbreaking perspectives from the bleeding edge of science and translate them into practical tools for your daily existence. Our goal is to not just satisfy your hunger for knowledge, but to arm you with strategies that you can apply immediately, helping you navigate life with less resistance and create value faster than you ever thought possible. You do not want to miss what comes next. Leave a comment below. What is the immovable wall in your life right now? And which quantum strategy will you use to break it? The wave, the hustle, or the resonance? Let's discuss in the comments. Don't let your wave function collapse. Stay coherent. Stay curious. And remember, the wall is only solid if you believe it is. I'll see you on the other side.